The ideal diet for someone with dry eyes has been touted in literature to be the Mediterranean diet, to be lean meats and vegetables, lowering carbs. And there's definitely some evidence that eating omega-3 fatty acids is helpful to the oily layer of our tears.
Welcome back to another episode of the Peak Performance Life podcast. Today, I am very excited to have Dr. Pam Theriot on the line with us. She is a dry eye specialist in Louisiana. She is going to share tips to preserve our vision in a screen-filled world. She has her undergrad degree was received from Rice University and her doctorate was earned at UC Berkeley School of Optometry. She completed a residence at SUNY and a fellowship from the American Academy of Optometry. In 2018, she published a book called Alleviate Dry Eye as a guide for patients. And in 2025, she delivered an Editor's Pick award-winning TEDx talk titled Seeing Clearly in a Screen-Filled World, 3 Tips to Preserve Your Vision. I'm sure many of our listeners right now, such as myself, who are staring at a screen all day or most of the day, are very excited to hear some of these tips to preserve our vision. So Dr. Pam, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thanks for having me, Talor. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. So yeah, tell us a little bit of the background story of how you got interested in the work that you're doing today.
Well, I've worn glasses since I was 12, and I thought it was just an amazing thing to do for someone to give them clear vision. And it's actually one of the most common questions you're asked as an eye doctor is, hey, doc, what can I do to make my vision better? You know, is it a new pair of glasses this year? Is it a new pair of contact lenses? Is it a supplement? Is it an eye drop? And so with technology moving at a rapid rate in the optometric ophthalmic world, there's tons of different modalities that we have to improve our patient's vision. But I find it really rewarding to, we'll have somebody come in seeing 20/40 and they leave seeing 20/20. So.
And yeah, that sounds really cool. Obviously improving our vision. Now you've definitely piqued our attention. So do we want to jump right into it? I know you've got this TED Talk that's all the rage right now. What are some of the highlights in case people haven't seen that TED Talk? Maybe that's a good place to start.
Great. Yeah. So the first thing I do is walk them through a self-assessment. So I really wanted to hone in my practice, I specialize in dry eyes. So patients who have red, watery eyes that are irritated, and a lot of times their vision will fluctuate. So patients come to me for that specifically. I wanted to open it up to a broader audience of people who may be suffering from those symptoms that don't really categorize it as dry eye syndrome or dry eye disease in their own mind. So the biggest portion of the population that I could think of that suffers from these same symptoms are people who are using their digital devices. So I really tied my TED Talk into living in a screen-filled world. Unfortunately, I don't care if you are 2 years old or 102, you probably spend a portion of your day on a digital device. How many hours do you think you spend on digital devices, Talor?
Oh, I don't want to admit it, but I think I'm better than probably my teenage daughters, and I think I'm probably better than most of my friends. But I'll say I'm better than most when it comes to cell phone. I don't like actually looking at my cell phone. I try to avoid that. But that being said, I'm on my computer quite a bit.
Right, you run a digital company, so you've got to use it. I would say the same thing. I'm in clinic, I'm face to face with patients, I'm talking to them, I'm examining them with microscopes and different devices all day. So I don't have my nose in my phone or on a computer all day, but I have a blog. I wrote a book. I do lots of lecturing, so I'm constantly on the computer creating content. So, and then doing things like this, doing interviews or webinars. So lots of time, even when we say we're not big on it, we end up spending several hours a day. So that was the start of my talk, was like, who is my audience going to be? Well, it turns out it's most Americans, regardless of age, race, sex. We're all using the digital devices. So what I wanted to hone in on was that it's it is a problem, and it's a problem that we shouldn't ignore when our eyes feel stinging and burning, watery. So during the talk, I do a self-assessment. And if you want, we can do it with you and the audience that's listening. What I want you to do is you're going to blink hard, maybe 3 times, kind of getting ready. And then I'm going to count while you hold your eyes open. Okay. So are you ready? Blink, 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 and then hold your eyes open. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So none of you were watching. Talor blinked at 4 and again at 8, right? So average should be about 10 seconds. Like, you should be able to hold your eyes open for 10 seconds without stinging and burning. And so it was also kind of distracting while I'm doing the talk on the TED stage, and I'm looking at the audience and they're starting to breathe funny and hold their eyes open. But
I was trying to let my eyes kind of naturally. Yeah, I was like, they just started naturally blinking. Like after a few seconds, like they just naturally wanted to blink, and I was like, wait, I don't think I'm supposed to be blinking. She said leave the eyes open, but they just did.
Right, because they're trying to protect themselves. When you blink, we lubricate the front surface of our eyes and protect it with all the wonderful things our tears have in them that fight infection and soothe the front surface of our eyes. So it turns out that 10 seconds would be normal for us to not blink and not have any stinging and burning. The problem that we have is that when we're staring at our digital devices, we don't blink. Our blink rate goes from a normal 21 times a minute down to 7 times a minute. So it cuts it into a third because we're just so concentrated on whatever it is that we're doing in the moment while we're either on our phone, especially if we're playing a game, and you're like, and you're really concentrating, you tend not to blink. Or if you're typing away, our blink rate decreases with digital devices. So after I brought everyone's attention to, you know what, it's happening to you too. It's not that I'm talking to the guy in the next cubicle over. I'm talking to you. Everyone is really suffering from this, whether or not they call it the same thing. It's really becoming omnipresent. So I just wanted to lift that up and then give a few tips that people could put into action right away. And so in my TED Talk, I talk about how to set up your workstation, which we can go over a couple of them right now. So putting your screen in a downward gaze so that you're looking down into it instead of up at a screen. That exposes more of your eye. It's harder to blink when you're looking upward. There's more of your eye that's open and exposed. So that's number one. The second is, how far away is your computer screen? So arm's length away. You don't want to have your nose up in it, but you should be able to touch your screen and have it a little bit downward. And the third would be make sure the lighting isn't coming straight on you. I'm sure you've learned this from doing videos. It's like you want to have the light right on you, illuminating you. That might be okay for a quick video, but if you're going to be in an office, having the light come from above or behind you. So if you're sitting by a window, make it to the side of you or behind you and not in front, so the light's blaring right into you. So those were some of the ones that I shared. I gave everyone like a 3-stage scene where you prepare your workstation, get set up properly. Then when you're working, while you're performing, there's a couple of things that you can do. That would be taking some blink breaks or perhaps using some artificial tears. And then the final one is preserve. So after you're done working, what can you do to support your eyes overnight to really make sure that they're ready to go the next day? And I like to liken this to an athlete, right? Before they get ready for the game or the match or the race, right? They're stretching, they're warming up, doing some calisthenics, getting their blood flowing. And then while they're performing, they take that quick, water break while they're running their marathon, or they go to the sidelines and they chug their Gatorade, they get their electrolytes going. And then at the end, they slip into an ice bath, get a good night's sleep, carbo load for the next day. I mean, athletes definitely have a 3 stages where they know that they need to use their bodies. And I think that people who are working on digital devices, this is not how our bodies were meant to sit in a desk and stare at screens all day. So really giving ourselves that support that we need to keep it going.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's really good advice. Some of that I had not heard before. I actually have a standing workstation, which feels better for me from a posture perspective. But yeah, I'm going to be a little careful now to not be looking up. Make sure I'm either aligned or a little bit lower, like you mentioned there. I think that could be really good. The lighting, like you mentioned, I actually personally try to keep all artificial lights off during the day as much as possible. I open all the shades, try to get as much natural sunlight, and try to avoid artificial lights. I was curious what your thoughts are on artificial lights, LED lights. We hear all these things with the LEDs flickering all day long, and all this artificial lights. And we've had people talk about blue light blocking glasses on the podcast. I do wear blue light blocking glasses every night. It does help. I feel like it helps to reduce fatigue of my eyes. But yeah, just curious to hear your thoughts on those.
Yeah, so blue light is definitely something that can disrupt our circadian rhythms by stimulating the serotonin. The blue light is the same light that comes from the sun. So I don't think there's a problem getting artificial light or light from the window in the morning time. So you using natural lighting in your office, that's great. The point is to get the best contrast of what it is you're seeing without having lots of glare and stressing your eyes in that manner. So, and I love that you're using a stand-up desk. I doubt you get your desk up above you. So you're looking up at it. So even standing, you're going to be looking down at it. It's giving you a better posture and enabling you to move around a bit. So ergonomically, I think that's going to be a better setting for you, especially if we're spending lots of hours, at the computer. Sitting is not necessarily the best for our posture. So back to blue light glasses.
Absolutely.
I think that at the end of the day, like you were saying, you should emulate what the life outdoors is doing. So we can put on our indoor lights, but our bodies need that lack of blue light at bedtime so that we know that it's time to wind down and go to sleep. That's probably the second biggest problem we have in our lives is so many people aren't sleeping well. Just across the board. And is it the digital devices that people are leaving on their nightstand and checking in the middle of the night? Oh, they roll over and they can't sleep, so they grab their phone and they're getting stimulated with blue lights.
Yeah, that's like the worst. I try to leave my phone. I try to leave my phone downstairs, but there was a time recently where I was waiting for someone to come home, and I left my phone next to my bed, and I woke up at 1, 2 a.m. and I look at my phone, and then I was like, oh shoot, what did I do? And now I got this blue light in my eyes. Now I can't go back to sleep for a while. So yeah, I definitely think there's something there. And then just in general, though, what do you see about people using their devices at night? Like for me, doesn't that cause a lot of like eye fatigue, especially late in the day? You're kind of tired, and then you're kind of staring at this blue light. Most people aren't wearing blue light blocking glasses, so they're just taking it all in. How bad is that? Is there anything people can do to kind of mitigate this kind of thing?
Right, exactly. Other than wearing blue light blocking glasses, a lot of cell phones have a setting that they can turn on the blue light setting where it reduces it at nighttime. So I would look for that under settings, or there's an app, F-Lux, I think it's called, on iPhones, that you can decrease the light that's being emitted from your phone, and giving yourself a cell phone curfew 1 hour before we go to bed and really starting that nighttime routine. I think you mentioned that I wrote a book called Alleviate Dry Eye. And in that book, I have an entire chapter on sleep. Because if we don't allow our bodies to rest and restore and recover, your eyes get behind the 8 ball and you don't produce as many tears the next day. And then the dryness it, it goes on and on, snowballs. So really having that bedtime routine where it's like, okay, it's 8 o'clock or it's 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and I'm going to put my phone away. I'm going to have this hour. I'm going to take a warm bath. So you heat your body up so that it can cool down. Drink some tea, have some natural remedies. I'm sure Peak Performance has something that helps with nighttime.
That's right.
I'd love to know what you have for nighttime. I think I heard you talking about magnesium supplement. I like to take that at night.
Absolutely. Yeah. Magnesium's probably the go-to. Most people are deficient in magnesium. It's so crucial. So magnesium is kind of like my go-to nighttime. I don't do a whole lot else. I'm not I don't really do like melatonin or any kind of things like that at night. I know some people do. Some people find it useful. There's kind of a lot of mixed reviews on that. Some people think it's a great antioxidant and it helps. Other people say no, it's addictive, and so there's a lot of back and forth on that. I'm still open for debate on that one, but yeah, I think it's just a really interesting thing in terms of like so yeah, doing the I forget what it's called when the setting in your phone, it's like daylight something, I forget what it's called.
Right, nighttime or the daylight.
Yeah,
some
nighttime.
kind of
There's
setting.
actually a setting where you can make it red too, right? There's one where if you hit the button, like you can actually make your phone red, which some people, some really crazy biohackers do at night. But yeah, we won't get too much into all that. I'm just curious, like in your opinion, okay? So and actually, you're an expert on dry eyes. You wrote a book about dry eyes. Me personally, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I personally don't think I've experienced much dry eye. But how common is dry eye? What like percentage of the population maybe will experience dry eye at some point where they'll have to take some action to resolve it, do you think?
So statistics right now are at 30 million Americans. I think you're in the sweet spot because you are male and you are a 40-year-old male. And so females over 40 are typically ones that are going to suffer from dry eyes because of hormonal changes in that period of life at 40 and above. But what we're interestingly finding is that 10 years ago, you would say, oh, it's a 50-year-old female. That's your category for dry eye. But we found now is that even 20-year-olds, regardless if you're male or female, are suffering from dry eye equally because that age range are the first generation that are growing up with cell phones in their hand. Yeah, I didn't get a cell phone until I was already in my 20s and it didn't do fancy things, right? And so we didn't have that early exposure to cell phones in our lives. And so the oil glands on the inside of my lids, and I would assume in your lids, are very healthy. Mine produce lots of oils, but these teenagers and these 20-year-olds and the early 30s that have grown up with cell phones their entire lives are really having a deficit of the oil glands, have actually atrophied from that lack of blinking I was talking about earlier. When we're staring at the devices, we don't blink as often. So it's equivalent male to female at about age 20 right now. But typically 10 years ago, we weren't seeing it quite so prevalently, and it was more like females in their 50s for hormonal reasons. So we can all get dry eye. Hopefully we're not speeding ahead to a pandemic of dry eye sufferers because of the fact that, we've all just admitted that we spend at least 4 hours a day on our digital devices. For two people who say we try not to, right? And
Right.
So people whose office or their job is to stare at a computer all day long, 8 hours a day, and then they go home and they play a game on it, or they do social media, or maybe watch a movie on a pad instead of the television. The closer the digital device is, sort of the more it's going to affect you. That blink rate, you'll blink better if you're watching a television versus an iPad versus a phone. The closer it gets, the slower the blink rate gets.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. And I can feel that, right? And that's why if I am trying to wind down and watch something, I don't know how the kids these days watch shows on their phone and stuff like that. That's crazy to me, right? Like I'll watch it on a TV, but I feel like, hey, okay, I'm sitting far away. I got a pretty big TV. I'm sitting far away. It's not that close. I don't feel like it doesn't feel like it's hard for me. I will say I do notice now. I'm 44 now, and I do notice like when someone sends me like a spreadsheet or something I got to look like. I'm like, oh man, I got to, like the squinting at the small numbers on a spreadsheet is like something I try to have my team members do as much as possible. I'm trying to avoid doing that. It's whereas in my 20s I was like, oh yeah, who cares? Yeah, give me the spreadsheet. I'll analyze the whole thing and whatever. And now I'm just like, oh no, my eyes are going to be like staring at this little spreadsheet, like because then I guess your face probably gets closer to the screen. So now you're
You
closer.
blink a
You're
little bit
staring at like,
less. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
So the other thing that
Uh,
happens in our 40s that we should maybe just touch on is something called presbyopia. So it's our lack of ability to focus up close. So like you said, when you were 20, somebody would hand you a piece of paper and you could just like put it right up to your face and be like, oh yeah, I see that. But now your teenagers come and hand you Dad, did you see my report card? And you're like, yeah, it's so much better over here though. Let me just push that away. And so that having that focus ability to focus up close just naturally declines between 40 and 45 is where the start of that is. So kind of straining or struggling to see up close is best alleviated with presbyopia treatment, which could be reading glasses, contact lenses. We have some new eye drops that you put in your eye and helps you focus up close. So there's lots of new technologies out in the world now that instead of just picking up some cheaters from the drugstore or the dollar store, there's so many other options available.
Yeah, so that's a couple of things I wanted to ask you about. I did want to ask you about eye drops. Are they good? Are they bad? Indifferent? Should people be looking for a specific kind? Maybe you offer one that you developed, the proper way. So eye drops is one. And before I forget, I just want to mention also sunlight. What's your opinion on natural sunlight? Obviously, not staring at the sun, but there's a whole thing in the whole health movement of like, hey, go outside every morning, get at least 15, 20 minutes in the sun, that kind of a thing. So just curious about those two topics.
So let's hit sunlight first because I think that's easier. So UV light that comes from the sun can cause a whole host of problems on the eye, from growths on the eyelids or the front surface of the eye to cataracts and then to macular degeneration. So yes, we want you to protect your eyes from UVA and UVB. But there is that, well, shouldn't we be getting some vitamin D from the sun, having that early morning sun? So I think that having that window of 15 to 20 minutes without sunglasses, when you're in that sunrise, the UV light is probably lower. It's not harmful to you to go outdoors and experience some natural sunlight. When you're on the hottest day of the year in the middle of the summer and it's beating down on you for hours and hours, yeah, we want you to protect your eyes and your skin with UV blocking sunglasses. So I think that's pretty simple. Long periods of time in the sun, just want to protect from the harmful UV rays, just like we would protect our skin. And then as far as
that's good. That's a good tip though, because honestly, I actually thought like, oh no, sunglasses are. I never wore sunglasses, so I always feel weird when I wear them. It feels like it's like I feel like I'm missing something, or I'm not like as on point as I would be. But maybe I just have to start getting used to them. But I was like, oh no, I don't need sunglasses. You don't need sunglasses. But it seems that yeah, if you're driving and there's a glare in your eye, or if you're out in the sun at the beach or wherever, probably a good idea to wear sunglasses, huh?
Absolutely. Yeah. The UV light is really can cause early cataracts. Interestingly, like if you lived at the equator, people get cataracts in their 40s, but in North America,
Whoa.
they get cataracts in their 60s. So the exposure to UV light, being at the equator, being closer to the sun is so much stronger than if you live in other places. So protecting your eyes and macular degeneration is not anything that we want to wish on our worst enemies. So definitely wear some sunglasses. And then artificial tears are a wonderful supplement to use. I talk about them in my TED Talk during that performance phase. So while you're working on the computer and your vision might fluctuate in and out because they're getting dry and you've got to blink and blink, taking a couple of seconds just to put in some artificial tears can really help to lubricate the front surface, make your vision more clear, and help you continue to work. So taking that artificial tear break is great.
And what about normal people? So people who wear contacts or things like that, and then they're just constantly using whatever I don't even know, eye drops that that are being used on a daily basis. Is there any can it be overused? Right? I hear my daughter oftentimes saying, "Oh, I want some eye drops," saying to my wife, and she's like, "Oh, you already had some, yesterday," and she's like, "Well, so why can't I have more today?" or something like. So what's the deal there? Anything to be worried about?
So preservatives. I always recommend to my patients they use a preservative-free eye drop because preservatives in drops, if you're using them more than 4 times a day, then you're getting too many preservatives in your eye. And I would say if you're using artificial tears, if you're feeling the need to put in artificial tears more than 4 times a day, then it's time to see your eye care professional. That, there's something else going on, even if it's, you blame your contact lenses, you blame allergies, you blame yesterday's amount of work. If it's happening multiple days in a row that you're using tears more than 4 times a day, it really does need to be looked at by a professional because it could be the start of dry eye disease, which can be debilitating. I see patients all the time that, are unable to continue working the way that they had been because their front surface of their eyes is unable to lubricate itself, which leads to, as I said, blurred vision, but discomfort. And it can snowball over time.
Yeah, this is good stuff. So what else? So you mentioned cataracts a few times. I've heard, I hear old people get cataracts. You see them with these big glasses sometimes. We don't know much about it as younger people. A lot of times we just, that's something only old people have to worry about that. But it's probably something we want to be aware of and start protecting ourselves from at this point. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So cataracts are a natural part of our life's progression. We will all get cataracts if we live long enough. Cataracts come from UV exposure. And like I said, eventually we get them. It's a yellowing of the lens inside of our eye. So it disrupts the clarity of our vision and the color perception. Generally, here in North America, we develop cataracts in our 60s, but there are reasons to get them earlier. Could be an injury, like you got hit in the eye with a baseball when you were a kid and it caused a fissure in the natural lens and it didn't affect your vision until you turned maybe 50 or 55, and then the natural cataract formation starts and it just accelerates. So that's one. But there are other systemic diseases, especially diabetes, that will rapidly increase a cataract formation. So sometimes we see diabetics in their early 50s having cataract surgery because they haven't controlled their blood sugar. That affects the lens of our eye. And it ends up turning into a cataract early on. So we'll all get them. Hopefully you'll get a cataract because you'll have lived a long, wonderful life and you'll need cataract surgery at some point. And afterwards we give our patients these giant sunglasses to protect them right after surgery from UV and from wind or anything just hitting their eye. Right.
Yeah. I do plan to live to over 100 years old. So, I'm not looking forward to the cataract surgery, I gotta say.
It's easy. But, it's an outpatient procedure, so it's simple.
Okay.
And then afterwards, you get great vision again. So that's the purpose of it. We remove the cloudy lens from the eye. We replace it with one that if by the time you need cataract surgery, you're wearing glasses, we'll incorporate your glasses prescription into the lens. And so it can eliminate glasses for a lot of the day. Yeah.
Ah, that doesn't sound too bad now. All
Right?
right. Okay. But it's interesting you mentioned, I mean, look, we know diabetes increases your risk of like every disease and every health issue that there is. So it's, obviously we want to avoid that at all costs. But it's interesting because it shows that there is some connection there between your health and what you're putting in your body and your vision, your eyesight as well, right? So I'm curious about that. Is there any ideal diet for improving vision? Are there any supplements or ingredients? We've heard of, I know of a few, but I know vitamin A. We know, I mean, I've heard of things like astaxanthin, lutein, bilberry, things like that. I'm just curious, have you seen anything with these that you would recommend at all?
Oh, absolutely. So, they're the ideal diet for someone with dry eyes has been touted in literature to be the Mediterranean diet, to be lean meats and vegetables, lowering carbs. And there's definitely some evidence that eating omega-3 fatty acids is helpful to the oily layer of our tears. So your tears have 3 layers: water, mucus, and oil. The mucus holds the water onto the eye, and then the oil coats the water from evaporating out into the air. So our oil glands like omega-3 fatty acids. So fatty fish is a good source of that, but most Americans don't eat enough fatty fishes in their diet, I guess, unless you live in Alaska, to not supplement that. So an omega-3 fatty acid supplement is wonderful. The other is that Bausch and Lomb recently came out with Blink NutriTier, which has vitamin D, lutein, zeaxanthin, and turmeric in it. So an antioxidants and anti-inflammatory, and then the vitamin D, and that's been shown to increase tear production as well. And then for overall eye health, the bilberry and the carotenoids are great for the pigment in our retina can be enhanced with those carotenoids, the lutein and zeaxanthin. And bilberry's been shown to improve the quality or the clarity of our vision in low light conditions. So lots of ways to improve our
Excellent.
eye health.
Have you created any of your own products around eye health, or you just recommend other products that you like and recommend to your patients?
Right. I have curated different product packages for my patients that have either the nutritional supplements or lid cleansers and artificial tears that I recommend to my patients, depending on the status of their eyes. So I don't have my own products, but I definitely have some favorites out there that I recommend regularly.
Okay, great. Well, I will take the opportunity then to shout out the Peak Performance Eye Support Supplement, which does have bilberry, lutein, astaxanthin, and zeaxanthin all in one capsule as well. So I actually do take that daily myself, and I don't know, hard to tell, if I didn't take it, if I did, what would my eyesight be like if I didn't take it versus if I do take it. But I do feel good. I do feel like a little something there. I feel like it's helpful. So
No,
yeah, guess it can't
definitely.
hurt.
The antioxidants in the carotenoids and the bilberry are definitely helpful to the eyes to get rid of those free radicals, because our eyes are constantly metabolizing. Our vision is all, every waking moment we are using our visual system, and so it's very active. And keeping it healthy, being able to take away those free radicals, being able to reduce the inflammation that's in and around our eyes is critical to healthy eyes and clear vision. That's what we're after.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like the same. It's kind of like the same stuff. Mediterranean style diet, lower carb, higher omega threes, and healthy fats and things like that. Right? It's kind of all the same things that are good for prevention against Alzheimer, good for prevention against diabetes, good for kind of everything here. But yeah, the omega threes, the turmeric for lowering inflammation, all those kind of things. That makes a lot of sense how those would work really well. Um, Anything else? Like, what are any other big mistakes that you see people make, or kind of easy things? Oh, this is what I meant to ask you about as well before I forget. Is so like right now I have a window behind me, and I can see trees out in the distance. And so one thing I'll try to do is take periodic breaks where, if I remember, I'll take a periodic break to actually look out and look at this tree that's 100 yards away that I can see out my window, to kind of get the contrast going from only looking short distance to looking further away.
Right. And so that's called the 20/20 rule, where you take 20 seconds to look 20 feet away, and really refocus your eyes. And that's great to take a break, because when we are looking up close, it takes more energy for us to focus our eyes near than it does to focus them far away. And so it gives our eyes that rest period when they're looking far away. Now in the dry eye space, we've kind of coined this 20/20/20 rule, where we want you to blink a couple of times. I don't know that 20 is necessary, but while you're taking that break every 20 minutes, kind of give yourself a couple of blinks, and that refreshes the tear film, as I was talking about earlier. It's a great way to clear your vision again.
So it sounds like blinking is a good thing. So blink more is a good thing, right?
Yeah, it's one of those things that's supposed to happen on its own. So thinking about blinking is the problem. But I'll encourage my patients to take a break, or to tie it to something they're already doing. Like if you're going to have a sip of water, if you have a sip of coffee, just take a couple of seconds when you're doing that other action to remind yourself to blink.
Yeah. No super hacks like blink 100 times really fast in a row or anything like that.
No, I don't think it's going to help, because once you squeeze the oils out of your lids, it's going to take a little bit for them to like refill. So.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Great. Well, Pam, this has been amazing. Is there any kind of other final pieces of advice, or otherwise, I'd love for you to tell people about your website and your TED Talk and your book, and kind of where they can find you and follow you. But yeah, any kind of final words of wisdom here for the listeners?
My last word of wisdom would be schedule an eye exam. You wake up in the morning and brush your teeth. At the end of the day, you wouldn't dream of going to bed without brushing your teeth again. Yet, many of us don't know the first step in taking care of our eyes. The first step should be to schedule your eye exam, let your eye care practitioner walk you through. I have a routine called 4 Simple Steps of Daily Eye Care, or the Eye Care Essentials, where we hydrate the eyes with artificial tears. We make sure we cleanse our lids and lashes, to get rid of built up dirt, dust, debris that we might collect throughout the day, just like you'd brush your teeth and just, get all the stuff off. You just want to get this stuff off from around your eyes. It's going to reduce inflammation. The third is using a warm compress. So putting that over the eyes to heat up those oil glands, allow the oils to come out and spread across the front surface of the eye. And the fourth step in these 4 simple steps is to take a nutritional supplement. So an omega-3 fatty acid, or maybe an antioxidant. Your peak performance would give that extra boost to our macular pigment, which would be great. So taking a supplement just to support our bodies so that our eyes can support us throughout the day. And that's really the message that I'd like to get out, is that don't ignore your eyes. If there's something that's going on, see an eye care professional, but there are things that you could be doing every single day to keep your eyes healthy. And you can find me at my website, which is pamtheriot.com. And my last name is spelled like the riot, Pam, Theriot.com. And my TED Talk is on there. As soon as you open the homepage, you can see it. My book is there. It's called Alleviate Dry Eye. It's available on Amazon. And I would love for your listeners, if they've gotten anything out of our discussion about how to preserve our vision in a screen-filled world, I have a downloadable PDF that'll walk them through those simple steps of setting up their computer to prepare what to do while they're performing on their digital device, and then in the end, how to preserve their vision at the end of the day. And that's available at my website at pamtheriot.com/TEDx. And we can put a link in the show notes.
Amazing. Amazing. Great. And then, are you on social media as well? Any place people can follow you there?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on Instagram at pam.theriot and Facebook at Pam Theriot, TikTok, LinkedIn. It's all my name, Pam Theriot.
Amazing. Amazing. Dr. Pam, thank you so much for sharing this wisdom. This is really important stuff. I mean, gosh, right? Our eyes, like this is such an important part of health. And so many of us are neglecting it. I think many of us learned, right? I learned today, blink more. Like a simple one. If all you learned today was blink more like I did, I may save my eyes over the next 50, 60, 70 years that I plan to be alive, just by being aware of blinking more, just by being aware of the 20-20-20 rule and looking away for things for 20 seconds at a time. Just little things like that make a big, big difference. So thank you so much for spreading the word and getting this message out here. And I hope we can do this again sometime.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, can you please leave us a rating or review and subscribe? I've realized that while we have actually increased our downloads a lot, we're actually getting a lot of downloads, which I'm really happy about. We actually have very few ratings. And I realized that I've never asked people really to rate much. So I'm asking you now if you could please rate and review and subscribe. And if you enjoyed the episode, please forward it along to anyone that you think will get value out of this. Also, if you haven't checked out our line of products at buypeakperformance.com, you get 20% off your first order. That's www.buypeakperformance.com. We have some incredible products, including our organic high-altitude coffee. If you don't know this, coffee is one of the most heavily sprayed with pesticides out of any crop. So it's really important that you drink organic coffee. We've gone above and beyond to source what we believe is the highest quality and healthiest organic coffee in the world. We're also famous for our organic green superfood powder. You can get 20% off of that as well at buypeakperformance.com. We also have an organic vegan and paleo plant protein. See, most of the vegan proteins out there are using brown rice protein, which is really not a good source of protein, and it's also a grain. And if you're paleo, you know that grains tend to cause inflammation in some cases for some people. And so we wanted to make one that was paleo friendly and vegan and organic. We made an amazing amino acid profile, so it's really one of the best plant proteins for muscle building. So you can check out Peak Performance Organic Plant Protein. You can find that on our website. Of course, all our products are on Amazon as well. So thanks again. And again, please, if you enjoyed the episode, please forward it along to someone who you feel can get value out of it. And please leave us a rating, review, and subscribe. Thank you.